Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. How do we look ahead and navigate the landscape and decide what direction to go and what moves to make? Today, we're going to pick some of the biggest brains we know on how they forecast the future and stay sharp in a changing world. Today, on the Real Estate Guys radio program. Hey everybody, it's Robert Helms inviting you to join me, along with co-host Russell Gray, at the Single Family Rental Home Expo. It takes place in Dallas, February 17th and 18th, and tickets are just $99. That includes general admission both days, plus a trade show pass, conference program, and free lunch and coffee. The SFR Expo features lots of experts in real estate and note investing, private lending, and much more. It all happens Saturday and Sunday, February 17th and 18th, in one of the great real estate investment markets in the U.S., Dallas, Texas. Send an email to sfrexpo@realestateguysradio.com and we'll get you all the details. Or visit realestateguysradio.com and click on events. Can't wait to meet you there. Memphis is famous for being the home of the king of rock and roll, but it's also the king of cash flow. If you're looking for affordable cash flow properties, it's hard to beat Memphis. Get your portfolio rocking and more cash flowing your way by calling Terry Kerr at Mid-South Home Buyers. Terry's the king of turnkey properties. Contact Terry through the resource section at realestateguysradio.com. And be sure to order Terry's tips for turnkey rental property investing report. It's free. Just send your request to turnkey@realestateguysradio.com. Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. Thanks so much for tuning into the program today. We've got a great show for you. We're going to talk about forecasting the future. As real estate investors, we need to make decisions about our portfolio, how it exists today, what changes we want to make, what markets we want to be in, what product types, and yet the future is fuzzy. It's not clear. A few weeks back, we had 2 weeks in a row of predictions panel, a unique kind of show for us where we had lots of different people call in to give us their take on what 2018 would hold. Today, in a similar format, we're going to hear from some of the smartest people we know about how they stay sharp, stay focused, and make their best educated guesses about what the future may hold. Now, if you heard our show from some time, you know that almost always our guests are live in studio with us. But just like the prediction panels, we're going to hear from a lot of folks today. So from a sheer logistic point of view, it's going to be phone call-ins. But pay attention. There's some great common denominators, some great ideas, and some absolutely amazing guests today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Hi there, this is Danielle DiMartino Booth, author of Fed Up, an insider's take on why the Federal Reserve is bad for America, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Great topic today. We're talking about how do you stay sharp? How do you find out what's happening? How can you forecast the future? We live as investors in the future a bit. We look at the past, but we have to make decisions in the present. And our next guest is a gentleman who has done an amazing job of getting around the right people and pulling people together. Please welcome the director, promoter, and mastermind behind the New Orleans Investment Conference and the editor of the Gold Newsletter, Brien Lundin. How are you, sir?
I am doing wonderfully. Great to be here as always.
Always great to get in conversation with you. I love to read your stuff as it comes out. It just always amazes me how spot on you are. You say, hey, the dollar's going to go down next week, and then next week it does. I don't know how you do that, but today I thought we might pick your brain a little bit about how do you stay in the right frame of mind? How do you find information? How do you reach out to the people and make sure that you've got your thumb on the pulse?
Well, I think, Robert, it boils down to experience. I've been in this market for well over 3 decades, going on 4, and I've seen a number of cycles. I've seen how people react. I've seen how markets react, and I read everything. And I distill that. I read just about everything, but I also know who the really smart guys in the industry are. A lot of them, by the way, appear in your events as an aside, but I know who the right people to listen to are, and I form my own opinions as well based on that experience. And we're not always right, but I think that the metals and the mining shares and the markets that we specialized in have kind of settled into a fairly reliable annual pattern, and the long-term picture just looks so clear. it's as near to inevitable as anything you can get in investing.
Well, of course, the past 3 or 4 years, the metals haven't looked as good as maybe they do right now, and the last few weeks have certainly been good in that regard. Get out the crystal ball for just a minute. What do you think we got to be looking at in terms of metals in this coming year?
Well, there is, of course, the long-term picture that the debt that's been built up in the U.S. and all other developed countries is too great to be handled without the currencies being depreciated to some extent. So that means higher gold prices over the long term. But in the near term, what's really been driving gold over the past couple of years, and it was really going to drive it this year, is a lower dollar, a weaker U.S. dollar as compared with other developed world currencies. The big-time investors, the big hot money out there, the speculators that move the Forex markets are moving out of the dollar because the Federal Reserve is well along its tightening path. But the other currencies, the other central banks, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, they have yet to begin their tightening efforts. So the bet has shifted, if you will, from the big Forex traders from the dollar toward these other currencies that are just beginning their tightening process. And in fact, there's a lot of reason to believe that the Fed will be stalled in their tightening at some point in the very near future. They really don't have that much further to go.
Yeah, it's interesting that as we've seen the interest rate ratchet up from the Fed, we haven't necessarily seen a corresponding increase for savers, folks that are putting their money in the bank, which hasn't been a great thing to do anyway, other than the idea of having some cash, and we could certainly talk about the merits of where you would keep that cash. But it'll be interesting to see just what the Fed can do. And of course, it's not just about the Fed; it's about the other central banks as well.
Yeah, and I don't think there's much hope for the savers, quite frankly. If you look at what the Fed governors themselves are saying, they're saying that this rate hike campaign they're on has a goal, an end point of around 2.5% on the Fed funds rate. That's only about 1 percentage point or 4 quarter-point hikes away from where we are now. So if the Fed maintains the pace just in 2018 that they're saying they will of 3 or 4 rate hikes, then we're effectively coming to the end of this rate hike regime this year. And then it'll be over. So that's why I'm saying that the Forex markets are looking ahead 12 to 24 months. And they're saying we've got a good year or more, probably a couple of years of a weaker dollar in relation to other currencies.
Good stuff. Well, hey, one of the things I always appreciate about your conference, Brien, and it's too early really to start talking about it, but definitely be thinking about heading off to New Orleans for the New Orleans Investment Conference. It's going to be amazing. A little different time schedule this year, early November instead of late October. Is that correct?
Yes, about a week later than normal.
So get that on the calendar, first week in November. But one of the things you always say from the front of the room is that it's not just about what you hear on stage and in the various breakout sessions, but it's about the other conference attendees. And how critical is it that you're listening to kind of the other investors in the room?
Oh, absolutely. I tell people every year that they need to just look around them if they really want to get the best investment advice and really the best experience out of the New Orleans Investment Conference, because a lot of these people, if not the majority of them, could actually be presenting from the stage. These are experienced investors. They're successful investors. They have a lot of ideas. Just by coming to the conference, they're out there looking for new ideas and exploring new opportunities. So these are smart people, some of the smartest you'll ever find, and frankly, a lot of fun. There's an intellectual energy in this whole environment at being at any investment event where you get away from home and you get a number of smart people in one room and socialize. But the New Orleans conference is really special because it's kind of a destination event. Everybody's in a wonderful location, having a lot of fun, and freely sharing ideas and socializing. It's just a wonderful experience for anybody who's serious about making money in this world.
Absolutely. And it's always the events around the events. I mean, you always have just stellar speakers, and that's always great, but it is those conversations. I mean, I've learned a ton from the people in the room, and it's because, if you think about it, lots are invited, but the few that come, I mean, it's a big, group of folks, but relatively few compared to the number of people that you invite. They're the ones that are serious. They're the ones that are that more engaged. And so you can get some great conversations. We are super excited to have you coming back on our Investor Summit this year for the 3rd year. And same thing there, right? We spend all this time learning, but it's those off-mic conversations and the dinner table conversations and all that can really solidify a lot of that for you.
Really is, and I have to say that the cruise last year with you guys was just incredible. Such amazing value, and I know I told you and really all the other attendees on the cruise this as well, but after being in the investment conference business for over 30 years, I've seen a lot of speakers come and go. I understand what real value is in an event, and that really blew me away. Just from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock or midnight at night, it was just value after value, meeting people, learning. It was just an amazing experience. I couldn't recommend it more highly to anyone.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that. I know one of the things that the first year we only had you on land for the day, and we did a panel on the metals, and that was great, right, to have you on that panel, and Peter Schiff and Jim Rickards calling in, and a bunch of great folks who were on that panel. Of course, Robert Kiyosaki, very interested, not a expert in gold, but a guy who has a lot of gold, and we'll hear from him before we're done today, in fact. But I think one of the things that people often in our world wonder is like, well, you're the real estate guys. Why would you be interested in the metals? But of course, our picture is so much bigger than that. We believe that before you're a real estate investor, you need to be an investor. And so we really appreciate the fact that you were able to bring that whole kind of world to people. And, not only the session that you did, which we had a lot of, metals investors in the room, certainly, but a lot of real estate investors that haven't thought about that and why you would consider a position in gold or silver, or even some of the other metals that you talk about. And I think that's part of it, is you're getting exposed to not just the things that you're already interested in, but on the summit, we want people to get exposed to everything that's going on, metals and oil and crypto and kind of the whole gamut, if you will. Yeah,
and there's a lot in common among all those asset classes. Just talking about real estate and gold and silver, precious metals investments, there are many of the economic drivers, for one, also affect the other, primarily inflation, the long-term depreciation of the currency and of the dollar in particular. But it's also a method to independence where you can divorce yourself or protect yourself from the machinations of the money supply and all of the levers that the government pulls to adjust the economy and steer it here and there. We've had financial crisis after market crash after financial crisis, really since the late 90s. And in each one of those, there have been winners and losers. And, of course, we had a big correction in the real estate market. But gold and silver and real estate done correctly and bought correctly have protected investors through all of the repercussions from those ups and downs and booms and busts. So it really is important to educate investors on all of the options out there outside of the mainstream things they hear in the mainstream media. There are plenty of ways to protect yourself and profit in virtually any economic circumstance, and you owe it to yourself to learn what they are.
Absolutely. I tell you what, when I first went to the New Orleans Investment Conference, had a little bit of metal and kind of understood, it's a hedge and it's a way to preserve and those things, but I really wasn't exposed to the various parts of the chain you can get involved in. And on last year's summit, we had you talk about kind of the mining stocks. And rather than just buy an ounce of gold or be part of a fund that owns metal, the idea that you can get involved with some of the mining stocks, and that's an kind of early stage area. And of course, a lot of that information at your conference, but we'll bring that again to the summit because I think that's an area that real estate investors maybe can relate more to. It really is these companies that have big lease holdings or ownership of real estate that has an excellent possibility of yielding metal.
Yeah, there are a lot of different ways to invest in precious metals and precious metals derivatives, and a lot of times people look at that and they just get confused, and if you're confused, you tend to not do anything. But right. What we can do in events like this, in situations like this, is really roll up our sleeves and go through all of the options, because even each individual method of investing has a spectrum of risk versus return opportunities. In mining stocks, you can go for the mutual funds, or you can go for the big, large cap miners, or you can go into the juniors that are much more speculative, but much riskier, but with much higher potential returns. So there are a lot of different ways, and what we have the time to do in that kind of atmosphere is really go through each one in detail, explain it, and take questions, and really customize the education process to each attendee.
You bet. And one of the things I certainly enjoyed this last year is hearing from our folks who had come on the summit and got to spend time with you and your lovely wife at dinner and have those conversations one-on-one. That's a pretty rare opportunity as well. So if you're interested in the metals and really all stages of why you would want to invest in precious metals and how to do it, then you'll definitely want to be on the Investor Summit. And that's just a few short months away. So, Brien, we really look forward to having you back on with us. And thanks for your great input today.
Well, I can't wait. Thanks so much, Robert.
You can find out more about the Gold Newsletter at goldnewsletter.com and everything you need to know about the Investor Summit at the Real Estate Guys site, realestateguysradio.com. Just click on the button that says Investor Summit. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Live nationwide. You're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Hi, this is Patrick Donahoe, CEO of Paradigm Life. Wall Street and banks spend billions of dollars per year in advertising with the goal to convince you that they are the solution. But take a look around. None of their advice has worked. If you're listening to this, odds are pretty good that you're already a real estate investor, or at least becoming one. So why do you do it? Is it to hedge inflation, the tax benefits, or maybe it's to get your money away from Wall Street? It's because of these benefits and so many more that I created the Real Estate Investor's Guide to the Perpetual Wealth Strategy. When you combine successful real estate investing with the Perpetual Wealth Strategy, you have the recipe for what has helped the wealthy to establish their financial well-being for decades. You can download the Real Estate Investor's Guide to the Perpetual Wealth Strategy today by clicking the Resources tab on the Real Estate Guys Radio homepage. Don't wait, go download it now.
Hi, this is Simon Black from sovereignman.com, and you're listening to the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, heard every weekend on this great radio station all the time at realestateguysradio.com. We're talking today about how we can forecast the future, how we get around the right folks and get the right ideas in our brain. And speaking of big brains, let's say hello to our good friend, author, and economist Peter Schiff. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. It's an exciting new year. You know, we did a couple of shows on predicting what was going to happen this year. We didn't get a chance to hear from you on that. What are your big picture things for 2018? What are you looking at?
Well, it's actually not. It's easier than people think to predict the future. The hard part is predicting the when, right? Getting the when right. And for a long time, I have been talking about the fact that I believe that we were headed for a dollar crisis. And I think the beginning of the crisis is here. I think, last year, finally, after 5 years, the dollar went down for the first time in 5 years. And it was the biggest drop in 14 years. And this year, the dollar is off to its weakest start since 1987. It is dropping like a stone. It is close to an all-time record low against the Chinese yuan. In fact, I think it's going to make a low against the yuan later this year. But this is just the beginning of what I believe is going to be a major long-term dollar bear market. I think probably the biggest dollar bear market we've ever been through, and we've been through a lot since 1971 when we cut the dollar's link to gold. We've had very big bear markets. I think this is going to be the biggest yet. And I think it's really the payback for all the monetary policy mistakes that the Fed that gave us the dot-com bubble and then the housing bubble and the financial crisis. And, rather than deal with the problems, they just kept blowing bigger bubbles by creating more money. And I knew that the ultimate consequence of this bubble blowing would be a collapse of the dollar. Because what's going to happen now, as the dollar is falling, you're seeing prices rise. Oil prices have now moved up by 50% since July. We're at almost $67 a barrel. We're headed to 80, then 100. Bond yields are rising. They're still very low, but they're at, 3-4-year highs. But I think we're close to a major breakdown in the bond market, which means big increases in interest rates, which would include mortgage rates. So you have rising prices, rising interest rates. That is going to be too much for an over-leveraged economy to bear. I think across the board, the government has massive debt. The last time the yield on the 10-year was at 4%, it was before the 2008 financial crisis. And one of the reasons we had that crisis was because we couldn't handle that yield. And now we have more than twice as much debt. And so obviously if we couldn't handle 4% back then, we sure as hell can't handle it now. And so I think that higher costs are going to push the economy into recession. And despite these tax cuts, the budget deficits are going through the roof. We have record trade deficits. Budget deficits, I think, are going to hit record highs. And who's going to buy the bonds if the dollar is falling? In fact, just the other day, Secretary Mnuchin is telling the world that he doesn't even think about the dollar. He doesn't even care about it. In fact, he's happy that it's going down. He welcomes the weak dollar. How are we supposed to sell bonds to the world if we're telling anybody who buys them that they're going to lose a bunch of money and we don't even care?
Right. No, it's exactly the case. And yet still, if we look at the last time, and of course, when your book came out in 2006 and you forecast the crash that was coming and then saw it happen, you had to correct that a couple years later and put out the real crash saying, hey guys, that was a crash, but that wasn't really the problem. Now we're talking about, and of course no one knows when, but the fundamentals show that there's only one way this can end.
Yeah, the real crash is the dollar crashing, so that's what's coming. Because what I wrote, my premise when I wrote Crash Proof, was that we had a bubble in real estate caused by the Fed, that bubble had really distorted the economy and led to a lot of excess consumption and home building and speculation. And I said that when that bubble popped and real estate prices came down, which is something nobody thought could happen, but I was confident it would, I said it would bring about the worst recession since the Great Depression, that we would have double-digit unemployment, trillion-dollar budget deficits, that we'd have bank failures, that we'd have bankruptcies for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And so I saw this coming. And then I said, as a result of that, the Fed is going to try to reflate the bubbles by slashing interest rates and printing a lot of money. But because of that, that was going to produce a dollar crisis, and that was going to crash the economy. So my diagnosis was, we've got this disease. The disease isn't going to kill us. It's going to be painful, but we're going to survive it. What's going to kill us is the government's cure, right? And the only part I got wrong or didn't get completely right was in not appreciating how long it would take between the time the Fed did exactly what I said they were going to do and the collapse of the dollar. And I think part of the problem was I thought they would just try to reflate the bubbles. I didn't realize they would succeed. And that's what they did. And because they succeeded, the crash is going to be much bigger than the one I first thought about. So now it's even worse, right? Succeeding in reflating the bubbles is more ominous than having tried and failed. So the economic or the investment advice that I gave in that book and that I'm giving now and that I'll give on the cruise, this advice is even more relevant and important now because the crisis that I want to prepare people for is so much worse because of the delay.
Yeah, such a good point. Hey, we're super excited to have you back for the 6th year in a row on the Investor Summit coming up in April. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, we've been going on with cruises for a while and really enjoyed doing it. And and the people certainly the last 2 years, we've actually, most of our investment strategies have actually outperformed the S&P over the past 2 years. Our gold stocks have really moved up. Our gold fund has doubled over the last 2 years, more than doubled. But we're just getting started there. We're just, at the tip of the iceberg in this move in gold stocks. So I think it's a great time, because we're, for people to get involved, because even though we've had these big moves in the last 2 years, if you go back, 5 or 6 years ago, it's really not that big a move because we had a huge rise up in the dollar in 2014 and 2015. So we've recovered the losses from those years, but we're really poised now for, I think, major gains. So it's it's a great time to get into the strategy, especially if you have money in the U.S. stock market, right? That you can sell out of that bubble, cash out of U.S. stocks, cash out of U.S. dollars, and get your money offshore before the bottom drops out of the U.S. market and the dollar.
Yeah, super excited about the timing of that. And of course, we'll be together for a lot of days. People can not only hear what you have to say about it, but pick your brain and hang out, and it's a lot of fun. Hey, one of the things that we're doing this year.
This time you're even going to come by my house in Puerto Rico.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. I think last time we were on the show, we talked quite a bit about the reason people are locating their businesses and their residences to Puerto Rico, and that's a big topic we'll have on the summit as well. But I think the question people want to ask someone who actually lives there is, how's it going in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, well, obviously, there's some problems now related to Hurricane Maria, so things are a little bit less efficient. I mean, maybe some of the people, I know a chiropractor I had left, he's not here. There was a good plumber I used to use, he's gone. So there are people that left the island that so some of the things are harder to do now. Because some of the service providers aren't around, and the ones that are around are more overwhelmed with work. So, but that'll go away. I mean, this is not a permanent thing. I mean, eventually, it'll get back to normal. Meanwhile, it's green again. I mean, I remember where I live. I mean, all the leaves were gone from the trees, and now the leaves are back. I mean, the trees, you can see a lot of the trees, the leaves are baby leaves. They need to get bigger. But there's a lot of green back, and it's still very pretty. And in some ways, people like it better because there's not as many trees, so you get more of an expansive view. There's still so many trees, but you can kind of see further, and I can see more water than maybe before because there's fewer trees blocking my view. I think that there's maybe a lot of people are thinking, things are really so bad after the hurricane, but that's really not the case. And there's probably even more opportunity here now because of the hurricane. Certainly, in the real estate market, because so many people have left, right? People have left and moved out, or people had houses and they got damaged, or they didn't have insurance, or they had a mortgage and they just decided to abandon the properties. They said, I'm gone. There's going to be a lot of abandoned properties, a lot of foreclosures. So a lot of opportunities for people to buy property very cheap. And if you move to Puerto Rico, right, if you actually move here, become a resident, and you actually buy a piece of property, fix it up and sell it, you pay no capital gains tax. So that's pretty good.
That's really good.
So, and then, of course, while you're living here, if you happen to have an investment in this, with me, if you have an account with me, or you have stocks that you trade and you happen to buy and sell at a profit, you don't have to pay any tax on that either. So there's a lot of opportunities here. And in fact, I think the new tax code even increases the appeal of Puerto Rico because a lot of people don't talk about this. But a lot of people got a capital gains tax raise with this new tax hike because they didn't touch the capital gains tax or in the tax cut. It's exactly where it was before, but you can't deduct your state capital gains taxes from your federal capital gains taxes. So if you're in a state that does have an income tax, then your capital gains taxes went up. So that's more of a reason to go to Puerto Rico because you make them go to zero. So the savings are a little bit bigger from moving to Puerto Rico now than they were before.
We're going to talk about all that when we're on the ship headed to Puerto Rico. Then when we're there, we'll get a chance to look around and see with our own eyes and learn about some of the opportunity. And it's going to be exciting. You're going to
come to my community. I'll show you around and, where I live and my condo and just my community. And especially for people that, people are thinking about moving here and if they have a family, if they have kids. I mean, it's a great place for kids. We got great schools, very safe community, a lot of great things for the kids to do, but, a lot of stuff for adults. There's some beautiful golf courses here, kite surfing, wind surfing, surf surfing, it's beautiful beaches, snorkeling, tennis courts. I mean, we got our own water park here. It's very, very nice.
Very, very cool. Well, we can't wait to get there. We'll do that as part of the Investor Summit at Sea. All the details on the website at realestateguysradio.com. Just click on Summit. Looking forward to seeing you and your family there, Peter. And, of course, thanks for your time today. Always good stuff.
All right.
There's Peter Schiff, soon to be making his 6th consecutive appearance on the Investor Summit at Sea. We've got more great guests on the way. Plus, we'll play real estate trivia next. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
This portion of the Real Estate Guys radio program is brought to you by International Coffee Farms, where you can own a parcel of land in your very own specialty coffee farm in Panama for as little as $15,000. Here's how it works. Deeded half-acre parcels entitled Specialty Coffee Farms in Boquete, Panama are turnkey managed professionally on your behalf by a team of local experts. Sustainable average income is estimated at 12%, and cash flow can begin within 12 to 15 months from the date of your parcel ownership. International Coffee Farms' mission is to own and operate specialty coffee farms that are economically, environmentally, and socially sustainable. As part of this mission, 20% of the gross profits of each farm is committed to a socially sustainable fund to improve the lives of the Panamanian coffee farm workers and their families. International Coffee Farms currently owns and operates 9 specialty coffee farms with half-acre parcels available for immediate ownership. To find out how you can become a coffee farm owner in Paquete, Panama, email coffee@realestateguysradio.com. That's coffee@realestateguysradio.com. Are you ready to profit in paradise? Hi, it's Robert Helms, and if you think real estate investing means tenants, toilets, and termites, think again. Located just a short plane ride from the U.S., a virtually untouched paradise awaits, the beautiful country of Belize. When you go to Belize with the Real Estate Guys, you'll spend 4 fabulous days discovering one of the most intriguing real estate markets I've ever seen. With its jungle rainforests, pristine beaches, and 81-degree turquoise water, Belize is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Plus, it's considered one of the top 7 tax havens in the world. Belize property is on the rise, and many experts think the best is yet to come. But don't just take my word for it. Come experience Belize firsthand at our upcoming investor field trip. When you join us, you'll discover the many reasons we love Belize, like tremendously undervalued beachfront land, super low taxes, ease of doing business, and so much more. Get the details at realestateguysradio.com. Just click on events. See paradise for yourself. Click events at realestateguysradio.com, and I'll see you in beautiful Belize.
Hi, this is Lawrence Yun, Chief Economist with National Association of Realtors, and you are listening to the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. We're talking today about how do we forecast the future, how do we make the decisions, how do we get around the right people and get exposed to new ideas and perspectives. We've got some more amazing guests on the way, but first, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia, your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. Just a minute, I'm going to give you a real estate question that has something to do about real estate and the Olympics that are upon us, the Winter Olympics. As soon as you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Include your name, the answer to the question, and your mailing address, because if you're the winner, we're going to send you an amazing book, one of my favorite Rich Dad books. It's called Rich Dad's Guide to Investing by Robert Kiyosaki. That can be yours if you know today's real estate trivia question. Last week on the program, we talked about stabilizing your real estate income through market diversity, and we asked this: in what U.S. state will you find the town of Bitter End? Well, Bitter End is an unincorporated community in Carter County, Tennessee. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. With the Winter Olympics upon us, something that only happens every 4 years, here's our trivia question. The first Winter Olympic Games were held in France back in 1924. Since then, which country has won the most medals at the Winter Games? Yep, if you counted up all the medals won at the Winter Games, which country has won the most medals at the Winter Olympic Games? If you know or just want to take a guess, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Include your name, your mailing address, and the answer to the question. And if you're the first person that gets it right, you'll get a copy of the great book, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing by Robert Kiyosaki. That's today's real estate trivia question. We're talking today about forecasting the future and getting around the right folks to help you make wise investment decisions and prepare for whatever may be next. Let's meet a couple of guys that spend lots of time educating folks about tangible steps to help you prosper in the years ahead. First, returning to the Real Estate Guys program, co-author of the amazing book Prosper, Chris Martenson. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing very well, Robert.
Well, it's good to have you back on the show. It's only been a couple of weeks since you chimed in on our 2018 predictions panel, which was great. And also joining us today, your partner at Peak Prosperity and co-author of Prosper, Adam Taggart.
Hey, Robert. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
You know, one of the things I love about you guys is the way you create community. And, you know, in your book Prosper, you talk about the 8 forms of capital, and we've had a chance a couple times to delve deeper into a couple of the different ones. But, you know, you talk about social capital, and that's so critical. And there's a lot you can learn from listening to podcasts and downloading webinars and so forth. But you guys have really done a good job of creating that community, that social capital. You know, Adam, can you kind of share your take on that? Last time we had Chris on the show for a full episode, we talked about that with him, but I know you have some thoughts about that as well.
Absolutely. So, social capital is essentially your role in your community and what you can depend on others for and what they can depend in turn on you for. And at the crux of it is nobody is going to be excellent at everything. And so for all of us, we need to be asking ourselves, what are our true strengths? What are the things that we know we can rely on ourselves for during a crisis? And where are weaknesses? And where do we want to find people who have complementary skills that shore up those weaknesses? And, really that's the whole underlying rationale behind community is for most of the crises that we're going to face, we're better in it together than alone. And so you want to surround yourself with people who are like-minded, but have a diverse set of skills and mastery that they can collectively bring together to help the whole succeed better than maybe just one lone wolf individual might be able to.
And that's a critical distinction because people tend to gravitate towards people who are like themselves. But to your point, if everyone has the same skill set, then we're missing something in the group, if you will. We often talk about how we develop our tribes, the folks we do spend a lot of time with. And we're certainly thrilled to have you guys as part of our tribe, if you will. Chris, as you get out there and you meet different groups of folks, what's the benefit of that, getting around the person who is one like-minded, but also has different and maybe complementary skill set?
Robert, the biggest thing is that none of us really has a handle on what's going on. This is a big world. It's changing so rapidly. My community has helped me understand cryptocurrencies, not as a speculative vehicle, but how transformative that underlying technology is. That's something that I would not have delved into on my own, but I saw really curious, passionate people who I trust diving into it. I said, hey, I gotta learn me some of that. And Adam and I just came off a 3-city West Coast tour. We were in San Francisco, then Portland, then Seattle. And we got to meet all kinds of people who are gravitating around our message, and it was just wonderful. You would recognize these people as kindred spirits. They're very successful, a lot of software engineers. We had lawyers, doctors, you name it, and a huge variety of backgrounds, liberals, conservatives, all of that. But we were all trying to feel this thing, this big gray blob, and see if we can call it an elephant. We're all just groping around, trying to figure out what the future is going to unfold, and you have to get a lot of points of view on that because nobody's got any corner on the truth at this stage.
Love that. And I love the fact that that's a great example of people coming together. And you might be able to do that on a conference call, but it's not going to have the same effect as when you're in the room and that whole mastermind thing starts to happen.
Well, that's exactly right. And, Adam and I joke that we pull all these people into a room, they've come to see us, but we could honestly slip out for coffee 10 minutes in and the room would just carry on without us and have a great time because it is about getting those minds together. Something happens. I can't really put my finger on it, so we'll call it mastermind for now, but really, the feedback we get says, wow, not only did I learn a lot, I had a great time, I met great people, but it feels like something happened. And the older I get, Robert, the more I'm convinced something is happening.
Yeah, no kidding. It's that whole thing about you can't be learning when you're talking. So it's great that people want to come out and hear you do a speech, but it's really that interaction. And we had the great opportunity to have you guys on our summit last year. And because it was right on the heels of your event, then you guys had to bug out a little early, but very happy to say that you're going to be back with us here shortly. In April, we leave for our 16th annual Investor Summit at Sea. You guys were with us for a couple days on land and a couple days on the boat. Adam, tell me your takeaways from that experience.
Oh gosh, how much time do we have here, Robert? Wonderful experience. It's such a great balance between the learning that you do from drinking from the font of the wisdom of the great speakers that are there, many of whom I had actually known and had relationships with online and virtually, but had not met in person. So, getting to spend time with people like Simon Black, with G. Edward Griffin, just a huge personal treat, but also I learned so much from those guys. But then on the other side is what you and Chris were talking about earlier, which is really tapping the collective knowledge of the room. The people themselves that come to the Summit at Sea are, from all sorts of backgrounds, but very accomplished people, very curious-minded, just good people to boot. And I think that the knowledge you get both by interacting with them and just sort of osmotically by being in the room with them is incredibly valuable. And Chris mentioned at our summits, we're biased, but we think we do a pretty good job of creating that vessel for people to cross-pollinate and really get to learn and enjoy one another. I think you guys do an exceptional job as well with that at Semester at Sea. I don't think I've seen another group that does it as well as I've seen with you guys.
Well, it is about the context, as Robert Kiyosaki always teaches us, more than the content, right? And when you get around people and they're eager and they're interested and they have different points of view, all that is a great environment to get some real discussion happening. One of the things we're looking at is just where everything is today, right? Everybody knows, and we've talked about on the show the last few weeks in the predictions panel, we're pretty long into this recovery, you want to call it, and lots of different opinions on that. But the reality is your message is about being prepared for what may come next. And I think timing-wise, we couldn't ask for a better time to get a big bunch of brains around this. And it's not just the faculty. It's great to have you guys. You're going to, I know, knock it out of the park in terms of the ideas that you bring, and just watching our audience kind of respond to your message was great last year. So really looking forward to, kind of doubling down on that. But then also the things we learn, right? I mean, Chris, I know one of the great experiences you had, because you shared it with me, was probably something you weren't even expecting, and that was just to have dinner with Ed Griffin.
Well, I've read his works. I was unprepared for just how warm and generous and curious and agile his mind was right there at dinner, and it was a fantastic experience. We ended up closing down probably a 300-seat, dining room. We were the last. The wait staff was, sort of waiting to yank our tablecloth out from under us, and we had all these people gathered around just to listen, because our table was rocking and rolling. Everybody there was in it, and I ran into one of those participants recently at a conference who was at that table, and he came forward and was just gushing about all the things that had sort of happened and how that had really been a course correction for him. So new vistas got opened, and he was still carrying that excitement and feeling its effect in his life. So that's, the older I get, Robert, the more I realize that that's when the magic happens. It's not because David Copperfield has, put $1 million into a set and given you that one magic moment he's designed. It's when you're open and you can recognize it and it's right there in front of you. But it's the context. You have to have the context for that magic to happen, or it happens more often if the context is set.
Well, and you know what? It's not going to happen if you stay at home, right? I mean, this is the thing. We can't script all of it. Sure, we have a great faculty and people are coming and talking about something. People often, when they're interested in the summit, say, well, what are this year's topics? Well, we're not really sure because we're still months away, right? We know that kind of the overarching theme this year is the future of money and wealth. But what does that mean in terms of the presentations? Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about crypto. And oh, yeah, we're going to talk about being prepared. And we're going to talk about metals. And we're going to talk about real estate. And we're going to talk about a lot of that. But you can't script all of it. And that's really anything, whether it's a summit or just your event or anything you come to, you kind of get out of it what you put into it. So I appreciate the fact that you guys are coming back and just can't wait to have your energy and all that there. And if you want to know more about what Chris and Adam do, best place is probably peakprosperity.com. It's great having you both on the line here. We appreciate that and can't wait to spend a week with you at the Investor Summit at Sea coming up here in a few months.
Thank you.
Can't wait for it.
There's Adam Taggart and Chris Martenson from peakprosperity.com. Be sure to check out the crash course while you're there. And more when we come back. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
All aboard. Registration is now open for the Real Estate Guys 16th Annual Investor Summit. Imagine spending an entire week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals. Returning this year are sales legend Tom Hopkins, international developer Beth Clifford, the authors of Prosper, Chris Martenson and Adam Taggart, and the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin. And joining us live and in person for his 6th Investor Summit, Peter Schiff. And lots more to be announced. It all begins April 6, 2018 in Fort Lauderdale. Visit realestateguysradio.com and click the tab that says Summit to learn more and reserve your spot. This transformational week is like no conference you've ever attended. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click Summit and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys and an all-star faculty on the 16th Annual Investors Summit at Sea. Don't miss the boat.
For investors, timberland has become the symbol of safety. Global tropical timber demand continues to surge as the world's population increases. The need for managed, sustainable timber production forests has never been greater. When stock markets crash, trees keep growing. Direct ownership of fully managed tropical timberland acreage is now available to accredited investors. Prime valuable hardwood groves close to the beautiful Costa Rican border generate and maintain superior long-term wealth. Qualified, accredited investors should email timber@realestateguysradio.com for more information. Consider visiting our forest plantations to see for yourself. Email timber@realestateguysradio.com. This announcement does not constitute either an offer to sell securities or a solicitation of an offer to purchase. Offering made by prospectus only. For more information, email timber@realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, this is Darren Hardy, author of The Compound Effect, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Talking today about how we forecast the future. How can we tell what's coming down the pike? Nobody has a crystal ball, but one of the tools that we certainly employ is getting around the right people. And one of those people is with us today. Let's say hello to our good friend Robert Kiyosaki. How are you, sir?
I'm doing outstanding. Good talking. Always great talking to you guys. 20-something years.
Well, always good to get together. And, we were thinking about this whole idea of how you get around the right people so that you're getting good ideas and food for thought and so forth. And, it had me think about your new book, More Important Than Money. And I don't think we've really talked about that book too much on the show. Tell us the whole premise behind More Important Than Money.
Well, life is about a team sport. And there's a new book I recommend everybody read. The advisors are going to read it. It's called Big Potential. And this is by a Harvard guy. And he says the trouble with going to school is they teach you that you have to be an expert by yourself. And he says that keeps you small. So the book, More Important Than Money, is your team. And more important than your team is how smart are they? How well do you work together? And the most important thing is this word called trust. And because trust today is gone, it is shot. And my Rich had always said, trust is the spirit of God between people. And when we all have people we love and trust, and there's the people we don't trust. So more important than money is a very smart team. You don't have to be the smartest guy to be on a great team. And do you have trust and do you respect what they say? The people that are struggling today are the people that went to school, a lot of the A students, who think they have to be the Lone Ranger. They have to be the smartest. And you guys know, real estate guys know, I pride myself on being not smart. But I'm a smart. And most importantly, I have a very smart wife, because
yes.
if you have I don't care if it's male or female, maybe husband or wife, but if you have a dumb partner, you're in trouble, especially one you don't trust. So think about all that,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've certainly watched you over the years assemble a great team. The advisors that are around you are folks that we've come to know very well. And definitely that trust aspect. It's so hard when you meet somebody and they seem like, they could be a good person to get to know, and they seem to have a lot of good things to say. And then, a little Googling around, find out they're a criminal.
Yep. And there's a lot of that going on. The thing that we always say, though, is, first of all, the book is called More Important Than Money, and all of my advisors, including my wife Kim, have a section in their book, and people say it's the best book that's come out of Rich Dad, other than, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But anyway, if you're hanging around with stupid people or crooked people, it's very, very tough to get ahead. And more than stupid is somebody who thinks they're smart. God almighty, how many times have we run into somebody who has to be the smartest guy?
Right.
Worst people on earth.
Yep. It's quite the opposite. One of the things we've learned from you is humility is such a great tool, and you can only really learn when you're open. When you've already made up your mind about something, well, then you're not going to open your ears and your heart. But if you can, like you always talk about, stand on the edge of the coin. There's two sides to a coin, but there's that third side, the edge. Talk about that.
Well, all coins have three sides, heads, tails, and the edge. And our school system and our religious system and many people think there's only one side to a coin. It's their side.
Yeah.
And they don't realize it's impossible to have one side of a coin. It is impossible. So that's why there's always three coins, heads, tails, and the edge. And intelligence is found when you stand on the edge and listen to both sides. I think it came from F. Scott Fitzgerald. The sign of a first-rate intelligence is being able to hold two opposing points of view and still be able to function. And most people only have one point of view, and they can't function. So that's the challenge there.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, today, there's so many great tools. People can read books, and they should. People can go online and take courses, and they should. But there's something that happens when you get together. And we spend a lot of time, of course, at different conferences and different events, meeting people and hearing ideas, listening to panels and all that. And you do that too. You guys get around a lot and are exposing yourself to lots of different points of view.
Right. Twice a year, that Rich Dad Advisors, who the person who wrote More Important Than Money, we get together twice a year and we study one or two books, because when you study a book, you unite our brains. We see the world from a closer point of view. And there's people who won't study. And if somebody doesn't want to study, why would I listen to them? Period. So it's a pain. It's like herding cats, because all the advisors are entrepreneurs, have their own business to run. But we show up twice a year. You guys show up too, and we study together. And that's how we unite. See, I was a U.S. Marine, and Marines are very united. And it's a culture of Marines. And that's what I have with the Rich Dad Advisors and the book More Important Than Money, is we have a culture. And nobody has to be the expert. Everybody's smart. We trust everybody on the team. But more importantly, we operate as a team. And most guys have to be the expert by themselves, and that's fine. That's just not the way I chose to operate. I was never smart. I was flunking out of school constantly. I've learned to cooperate, but that in school, cooperation at test time is called cheating.
Yeah. It's different in the real world, though, right? Because you are the sum of the people you hang out with, and you don't have to ever be the smartest person.
Going to school is probably one of the worst things you can do. I am not kidding you. My father was a PhD. He died a poor man. And if I could just plug something today, is the reason what the real estate guys and what we teach at Rich Dad is this Trump tax laws now made it more important that you understand real estate. And, the 86 Tax Reform Act took real estate away from the doctors and lawyers, but Trump, being a real estate guy, put it back in. And so if you're investing in the stock market and have a job, the tax law just screwed you, or Trump just screwed you, and naturally you're going to be angry at Trump. But the new tax law now makes it better for entrepreneurs and real estate investors, because the tax laws now favor them more than the person who went to school and got a job as a school teacher. And so the rift between, talk about three sides of the coin. On one side, you're going to have the employees and the self-employed. The other side, you're going to have the professional investors and entrepreneurs. And the tax law swung to even more to the rich dad side of the coin.
Happy about that. And, of course, that's going to be one of the big topics on this year's Investors Summit at Sea. Thrilled to have you and Kim joining us. Let's have a good time on the summit and learn a lot, huh?
If I could plug Kim, she come on the real estate cruise, because she is, you guys know, she's smarter than me at real estate, right?
Yep.
She is really a rich woman. You guys know that. And so if you have a spouse, either a man or a woman, who ain't smart, bring them on the cruise, because it's slowing you down. Because if you have a person on your team who says, well, I'm not interested in money, not interested in real estate, I think it's going to be, talk about the future, it's going to get harder and harder for employees, because the Trump tax law just basically took it to anybody who is an employee and doesn't use debt. Everything is opposite of what they taught you in school. So Kim's going to be talking to the women, right? You guys promise her that?
Absolutely. This is kind of a tradition when we have Kim with us, is that she sequesters off with just the women, and she does a little breakout. And, of course, last time we did this, because the women were with Kim, we decided we'd have a guys breakout that you did, and I have to tell you that was one of the most memorable sessions we've had. But if you're thinking about coming on the summit, whether in our world there's couples, and often one is more interested in the topic than the other, and it's not always the man or the woman. It depends on the couple. But, I would say if you are that woman that's the most interested, then for sure you'll want to be there. And if you're the person who's just kind of coming along, Well, spending a couple hours with Kim Kiyosaki will be amazing. Such an amazing opportunity for folks to come and just hear her heart. And she's got a big passion for helping women and helping them to understand finances, because not all women are set up for success in that regard.
Yeah, and then this program is on the future. You know, a lot of people don't like President Trump, but he just punished anybody who's going to school to get a job, working hard, saving money, and paying taxes. He just pounded you. So if you're a husband and wife and one of you is an employee mentality and the other is an entrepreneur and a professional investor in real estate, you're going to have a rift. You know, there's going to be two sides of the coin. There's going to be in the same house. So, you know, more important than money is I have a wife who really understands money, real estate, investing, running a company, and all this. But as you guys know, she's called the beauty and I'm called the beast. And so the women she'll talk to the women about the importance of, you know, understanding money and how it affects our marriage. Like, you know, Kim always says she doesn't need me because she has her own corporation, she has all that. She's set up to be an independent woman and not be, you know, Tarzan and Jane and you know, need a man to take care of you. The future has changed. And Trump's tax laws just changed. If you're an entrepreneur and a real estate investor, the future is very bright. But if you're an employee teaching your kids, you know, go to school and get a job and save money and get out of debt, you're actually screwing your kids. That's how bad it is right now. That's the future. That's all Rich Dad, Poor Dad was about. Nothing has really changed for rich guys, but the employees and the middle class are really having a rough future. So that's why I wrote the book, More Important Than Money, and then Kim is a big part of my life. So she doesn't come on these things very often. So it's an opportunity for women, especially, to understand what it's like to be free of needing a man. That's the most important thing.
All right. Well, we are sure looking forward to getting together, and it's going to be an amazing time as always. We will see you and your beautiful wife on the Investor Summit at Sea.
Looking forward to it. It's always a thrilling time.
All right, folks. There's Robert Kiyosaki. By the way, the 20th anniversary edition of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is out. If you haven't had a chance to ever read that book, go grab the 20th anniversary edition because there's some great updates and stuff in there. And then bring your copy on the summit. Robert will sign it for you. Lots of great stuff, lots of great ideas, and kind of a common theme about getting together and getting around folks and assembling your tribe and your team and your advisors, as Robert Kiyosaki calls them. It's obvious that nobody knows exactly where the future is headed, but lots of the folks that we're talking to are a bit concerned about what may happen, right? The recent tumblings and rumblings in the stock market and all the uncertainty around cryptocurrency and all of that has us wanting to spend more time focusing on this stuff. And a couple of obvious steps. We've got the Investor Summit at Sea coming up. It's a big chunk of time, 9 days, but you'll be hanging around super smart folks like every single person you heard on today's program, plus G. Edward Griffin, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, the amazing Tom Hopkins, who teaches us the skills of persuasion and is an amazing optimist. Real estate developer Beth Clifford will be back with us. You can find all the details on our website at realestateguysradio.com. Look for the tab that says Summit. And then we're excited to announce a brand new event, something we've never done. It's a 2-day symposium called The Future of Money and Wealth. We're doing it on the front end of the Investor Summit. So if you come on the summit, you get these 2 power-packed days included, but not everyone can manage the incredible commitment of time and money to be on the summit. If that's you, come on out for these 2 days. We'll have amazing panels on real estate and the dollar and gold and crypto and all the things going on. Plus, you'll meet the vast majority of our summit faculty members. For all the details, go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. Big thanks to Brien Lundin, Peter Schiff, Chris Martenson, Adam Taggart, and Robert Kiyosaki. Russ Gray will join us again next week. Until then, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors. From attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton.
Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys Radio Show.